What's up, guys? This is Anthony and
And
Issa.
Issa.
Today, we're going to start our first live stream. We're going to touch bases on a couple of cars that we actually reviewed this week together and talk about some highlights and possibly do some questions and answers later on into the live stream. So, I'd like to start touching bases on the new 2025 BMW X3. We did the xDrive 30 and we also did the M50. The difference between the two is 255 horsepower opposed to 393 horsepower. In the drive, Issa was actually part of it. So, what did you think about the X30, which was the base model?
Yeah, I thought it was kind of like it was really the seats were uncomfortable first off. So when I sat in it, I had a bit of like an issue trying to find a comfortable like spot trying to sit in it. So I had to sit in like multiple different positions. And then the drive, it was like really rough and rugged. So like every single time we would hit a bump, you could feel every little like piece and nook and cranny on the road.
I think the dynamics was not as good on the xDrive 30 opposed to the M50. Obviously, you're going to pay a premium, but the actual drive itself was night and day difference. If you get a chance, or if you're looking for those vehicles, I would suggest probably going to the M50, which I also convey on the review. And we also touched bases with the XM. So one reason why I wanted to talk about the X3 is because we also did the XM, which is literally like double the price. What was your thoughts on the drive for double the price of a vehicle?
It was a lot more stiff with the suspension. It was a lot more comfortable. The interior looked a little bit more with had better like quality. I feel the seats were a lot more higher quality. They were a lot more comfortable. But I just feel 20 grand is a little bit more expensive, a little too expensive for an X3.
Yeah, I feel like whenever you're looking at vehicles, especially when you're at that price point, the XM was, I think that one was like 180 grand. So looking at the X3 M50, that was around 72,000, I think.
Yeah, 72.
I felt like the performance was, obviously it's not going to be the same, but you're getting such a great value at 72 grand opposed to 100 and near $80,000, because at that point, like the review I just posted yesterday, the BMW X5M competition, I feel that would be the sweet spot if you're really looking for full throttle performance. We also wanted to touch some bases on some of the exotic cars because my son loves exotics. And, the new Ferrari F80 is out. And I know you would like to elaborate a little bit about that.
Oh yeah, it's a hybrid V6. A lot of people are. It's a little mixed about a lot of mixed reactions about that car. I feel because it's a V6, not really a V12 or a V8. Because Ferrari is known for making bigger engines.
So we're getting some comments through. Thank you, Jeffrey. We really appreciate you with all the comments that you've been doing through the reviews. As for Porsche and Audi, I'm going to be going to Porsche in probably the next week or two to review some of their vehicles. We're waiting for the 2025 models. That's why we haven't been posting so many about Porsche, in which they haven't been receiving a lot because of the port problems, and we just went through a hurricane. So it's out. It actually delayed me about 2-3 weeks in some of the reviews. For Audi, I'm looking into going in the next couple of weeks as well, because we're trying to get the 25 models, so that way we're not bringing so many 24 models onto the road or onto review, and especially with some of the refreshes for Audi and Porsche. As for the new Corolla 2025, I have word from my sources. I work with 3-4 different Toyota dealerships that they may have some, but every time I've went, they have not. So that's why I haven't reviewed that one. As for comparing the Kia Telluride, the Honda Pilot, and the Grand Highlander, right now the Grand Highlander, they have put kind of a stop sale on some of them because of recall issues. So that's one reason why we haven't been posting anything about them. They literally won't let you do anything whenever it's with a stop sale or any recalls. I was fortunate enough to get a few of the new Hondas. So the Civic, I got a sedan hybrid, which they only allowed me to have one because they also have a recall on the fuel pumps on all of their hybrids. So I was able to do the new Accord hybrid, And then we also did the new Odyssey, which obviously is not a hybrid. As for Mercedes, we're looking to do them in probably the next couple of weeks. Usually what I do is I'll pair Audi, Mercedes, BMW, Porsche, all kind of in the same time frame. So I usually knock them out within a week or two. So hopefully we'll have all that. I still will be posting those videos, but some of them maybe 24 models, because getting the 25 models has been kind of, like one or two on the lot. Going back to what we were talking about with the Ferrari, though, what I disliked about the new F80 is it's literally a Maserati MC20. That's how I feel. And I feel like they're taking away from the brand. We're going to be going to Maserati in the next few weeks as well. So we're going to start bringing some of those higher end vehicles back to the channel, which I've been filtering through with your economical vehicles and everyday vehicles also. Toyota Highlander 25 anniversary and a Sienna. We already have 25. No, we have 24 model Siennas. So the Sienna, I looked on their website yesterday. They said they have 4 or 5 coming through the line. So as soon as they come in, we will be posting those as well. The SQ8, yes, I've test drove that a few times. I actually had my brother in a couple of the test drives. There's several of those on the channel now. The 24 model, the 25, they don't have any on the lots as of right now. And for 24, 25, they're changing some of the aesthetics for the headlight assembly, and on the rear diffuser, they'll have a few updates. But the drive for the SQ8, I feel, is kind of the sweet spot if you're looking into Audi, because you literally get a detune more or less twice Lamborghini engine for a fraction of the price. And you can also get Audi Care on that, which I think is about $1,200 for 4 years. It covers all the maintenance of the vehicle. The E-Class, we have driven the E-Class. I just posted the new 2024 E-Class. Maybe I did a comparison against the CLE, and that because the CLE kind of took the spot for the C-Class because they don't do the coupe anymore. So I did a comparison between those two, in which it really, the E-Class is awesome. It's just very technology, like a lot of tech driven in that vehicle. And the S-Class, we have some 24 S-Class. The 25 hasn't landed at the dealership yet. As soon as they do, I usually try to get the V8 first, and then I go down into the not the V8. I usually try to get the V8 twin turbo first, and then I do the S500 afterwards. But as soon as both of them are on, I may do a comparison if they have both two of them. And we're also looking to try to do the new G-Wagon, which is one of your favorites.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's a decent. It's not a bad car.
Yeah.
I like the X5M better though.
Range Rover, we did the S Dynamic. I think we posted that maybe a few weeks back. So we have plans to go back to them, but where Jaguar is cutting off all of their vehicles more or less. I did do the SVR for the F-Pace, and I'm hoping to get a couple more on the channel this year before they don't have any more of those.
Not really. I don't feel like it is, especially with them going all EV now.
Yeah, Jaguar, I feel kind of tanked their brand a little bit, because it's not the same. I mean, when you're giving that much power with a supercharged engine under $100,000, it's an amazing vehicle. Now you're going in EV. For me, EVs are kind of like Power Wheels. I mean, you get a lot of power out of the vehicle, but it's just not the same as a combustion engine. It doesn't seem to have like a feel. Whenever you're just mashing on the pedal, you go quick, don't get me wrong, and the torque is enormous. It's just not something, you don't have the same wow factor when you have that exhaust in the car. You feel like it's breathing to get to that level. I like the Range Rover as well. I think they do an excellent job, especially with the quality in the interior. Third row, Honda Pilot. I like the Highlander, but I feel like the Pilot gives you a little bit more value now, especially because they have the Grand Highlander out. I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
on
The Toyota Highlander versus the Pilot?
I feel isn't the Pilot cheaper, or is it more money?
It's maybe a grand. It's really ballpark. It depends on the dealership. You could sometimes get amazing deals with them.
I mean, I feel they're pretty equal.
The interior
Interior
wise,
wise.
I feel like when you're at a 50, 60 grand price, you may want to look at the Grand Highlander because it's going to be more soft. But because of the recalls and they're having some ups and downs with, everybody knows what's going on with them, I would suggest probably holding off another 6 months so they can work out the kinks. He's actually a big time Tesla
I'm not
fan.
a big time.
He likes
Tesla
the
fan.
Cybertruck. I'm not a huge fan of Tesla. I think they do a great job with range and charging. But I mean, let's just put it in perspective. If you have a Tesla 50 years down the road, it's never going to be a classic. There's no way because it's battery operated. And not just that, who's going to spend all that money to maintain the vehicle to that level?
I feel that like with Tesla, I like the performance, like the acceleration that comes out of like cars like the S Plaid, but some vehicles like the Model 3, now that I've been in them, the quality is really crap, and the lack of features and technology in the car, especially the quality of like the fake leather, because they don't have no leather or nothing. That's what kind of sucks about it when you're paying almost 100 grand for a car that's electric.
Yeah. And at 100 grand, I mean, Porsche, Audi, they do an excellent job with interior specs. They give you some of that wow factor and the fun to drive. And it's also dynamically speaking better because with Teslas, I mean, let's face it, it's more of a straight drive vehicle. You're not going to be able to take a lot of corners, and the brakes are not as good either. Whenever I was doing the Plaid, which I have some reviews on, the braking on the vehicle, once you get up to a higher speed, it doesn't brake. So luckily, I try to review the vehicles where there's not a lot of people. So that way, whenever I'm doing any performance, I can actually stop the vehicle and I can see full specs of it. In doing so, it just wanted to go an extra, I would say at least 30 to 50 feet more so than something that would be similar in performance. The S5 Sportback and the S7 Sportback, yes, I have some reviews on those. Those are kind of the introduction to Audi performance, because when you go full RS on either of the two, the RS7 Sportback is actually one of my favorites because of the styling, and I mean, it's just crazy the engine that they put on there. We also did a special edition one for 2024. I think there's only 75 or 100 in the whole United States. So that one is already on the channel. The S5 Sportback, I have a few of those. I like the S5 Sportback in the convertible, but the interior I feel is outdated. Two Audis last a long time. Now, the only problem that I would say with Audis is keeping up with the service. As long as you're maintaining the service, they're a strong vehicle. I have family members, they're going on 5-6 years with theirs. I have some friends and colleagues, they also have one. They had a S8 for 9 years. So I think the quality is good. As long as you maintain the service, you shouldn't have any issues. Porsches last long, but one thing to take in consideration is a lot of used Porsches, they typically don't have much more than 40, 50,000 miles. So when people stress how long they last, I mean, you're not seeing a lot of 100,000+ mile Porsches for sale. So I know that reviewing, because I used to review some used Porsches. I did the, which one was it? I can't recall which one it was.
Did you do a Cayenne?
It was a 911 Turbo S, twin turbo. The 911 Turbo S. I did that one, and the rear end was going out at 49,000 miles. So that's kind of a common trait. They typically can go out between 39 in the 30s to 40,000 miles, and to fix that can be north of $7,000 to $15,000. I like the 2023 Cayenne. You're going to get a little bit more tech into it. I know that most of the updates for the technology was a few years back, giving the Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, but now I'm not really a fan of all the screen integrations that they're doing, like on the passenger side, but it's more cleaned up. The interior is a lot better, and it's a really good drive. Mercedes, the only problems that I have with them, and this is from experience having several owned through our family, transmissions can be issues, but usually what happens is if you buy it at a second or third owner, they don't typically maintain Mercedes. So if you're getting like an AMG, consider the AMG to be more of like an F1 vehicle. You're going to be paying premium price for maintenance. Now, if you get more of a base model, the problem with those is it's still expensive to maintenance over BMW, in which that's why some of those problems come into play. Some of the older models are better. The ones that we owned were all 2000 plus, in which the transmission went out several times, I think, on the one. It was a GLS.
GLE.
Oh, it was a GL. No, it was a GLS because he had the 3-row, the long one, the box, the big box. And the drive to them are very smooth. The air suspension, if you have a model that has that, it's awesome. I like the classic model Mercedes. I think they do an excellent job. Issa likes the BMW classics a little bit better.
Yeah.
But he's a big Mercedes fan as well.
Yeah, pretty solid. Yeah. So, what do you think about the new G90 M5?
Well, I think BMW is doing an excellent job giving us vehicles that can still perform, and they actually do last long. Like BMW, Mercedes, a lot of the high-end dealers in automotive industry, they let me go into their service, so I get to talk to the guys, and I do different content with them, helping their dealerships here and there. And what I've noticed is with BMW, they're a little bit more solid unless you're racing them a lot. But in the same category, racing them a lot, I mean like actually tracking them. As for the transmission, you're never going to have an issue because it's ZF transmission, which is German built. Whereas Mercedes, they build everything in-house. I agree. I think the German brands are awesome vehicles. I mean, they step it up a notch more so than Japanese and then traditional American vehicles. I feel like Cadillac, even Buick, actually, surprisingly, is getting better, but they're just not giving us the performance in the engines. They're putting smaller engines in the vehicle, and I understand because of the EPA, you have to do this, but in the same category, it's kind of like a flat screen TV. When you buy a big vehicle with a 4-cylinder turbo, it's basically something you're going to replace quickly. Kind of like going to a grocery store or Walmart, for instance, and you're buying a 90-inch TV. You know, when you're getting a base model vehicle or a base model TV, it's going to be replaced more so.
I'm gonna have to stop you right there, Dad, with
Yeah.
performance. Okay, so you have the CT5V, which can compete with the.
Oh
M5.
no, I was talking about the 4-cylinders.
Oh, the 4-cylinders.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not bad.
Yeah, no, they're
The
good.
quality's definitely getting better compared to older vehicles that they previously made.
Yeah, I mean, I think Cadillac is upping their game, but I feel like it's still lacking. That they just seem like they're holding back. They can do a lot more with their brand, and instead of them giving everything, I feel like they're just, we'll give them a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and then we'll lack on this. Like, for instance, they were doing things with Apple CarPlay where they didn't want to integrate it. Then they were doing things where they didn't want to give navigation in the vehicle. I mean, these are just simple things that should be standard in luxury vehicles. And I don't know why Cadillac was going that route. I mean, obviously to save money, but in the same category, when you're spending over $100,000 for something like an Escalade, you want all of these features. Porsche Range Rover. The CT5 is a great vehicle. I mean, you have a lot of vehicles that you like. So the Porsche Range Rover, BMW.
That's a lot of cars.
Yeah, and the value to them, depending on the trims, will change dramatically. Me personally, the sweet spot would be the BMW M4 competition convertible because I like convertible. But if you don't like convertible, Audi Sportback is really good, whether you go S5 or RS5.
Do you like the Escalade?
I do like the Escalade. The only thing I dislike is they still have a lot of hard materials and plastic throughout, in which when you're competing with things like Range Rover or like even an XB7 or an M60 for BMW, I think that it should be a lot more leather and actual wood interiors instead of having all these plastics. Because when you have plastic material, I'm thinking Toyota, Honda. I'm not thinking an upscale vehicle like an Escalade.
Hmm. I mean, I like the Escalade's new redesign in the interior.
No, it's great, but they're going this tech way where everything's TV screens. I mean, I have enough TV screens in my house. I don't mind having them. It's just once you start going so elaborate with it, giving us a whole dashboard similar to like Mercedes, it looks cool, but then you're kind of just making it where it's all for technology.
Yeah, but a lot of car brands are starting to implement those multiple screens, especially in the front now,
Yeah.
like with the driver and passenger, like Mercedes is doing it. And then BMW, they're not really, they haven't done it, but they do that like long strip of ambient lighting,
Yeah.
which looks a little cheap looking.
Yeah. Lexus is actually it's one of my sweet spot vehicles to go to because when you're thinking price and full luxury, they really go hand in hand, and you can get an excellent deal. But I dislike that they're changing all of their engines in most of their new vehicles. Or what would
Well,
you say?
I mean, I like Lexus. They have a lot of underrated sports cars like the LC 500 and RCF, and the IS is pretty nice too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Infinity is good. We've owned three of them now. Our new Infinities had nothing but problems, which I'm going to have a video out of 2 year ownership. It's literally been in the shop almost as much as we've driven it outside. Acura, we were going to get MDX Type S. I was a huge fan of it, but over $80,000, and at the time it wasn't touchscreen for the infotainment. You had to use the Acura True Touchpad, which I felt was just too much, especially when
Yeah.
you're paying that price. And you were actually with me,
I felt it was very like outdated. I feel the interior was outdated. It wasn't like the car from the exterior. The exterior looked really nice, but when you go inside the car, like you're losing a lot of features that most cars have that are cheaper value or cheaper price.
yeah.
So paying $80,000 for a car, you could buy a BMW or an Infinity or something else.
Well, BMW, Audi, Mercedes, you can buy, and you would like the quality a little bit better. I do recommend getting a certified BMW. If you're going to buy a new one, you really want to keep a BMW, I would say at least 7 to 8 years, so that way you actually get the value out of it. Because when you trade them, what happens is the value drops. The X5 and the X4, I like it, but X5 is going to be a lot bigger. So if you're looking for that coupe design, I would say X6, especially because X5 and X6 is basically brother sister vehicle. X4 would be more towards the X3. Um, both are very good cars. The X7 is going to be kind of it's long, but it doesn't feel like a boat drive, which is awesome. So it almost has a near 50-50 weight distribution, which in my reviews I show some of the cornering, and it's amazing when you have a vehicle that's around 3 tons taking turns at some of the speeds that we do on the testing of the vehicles. Whereas when you go into X5 or X4, you expect those to be handling a little bit better. Audi, I actually recommended a neighbor. He bought a Q5 certified, and he got an excellent deal. It was the S line mid spec. He got the premium package, and I think a couple the cold weather package, and maybe another two or three for around 37 grand. So you can pick some of those up inexpensive. I would say look at even the SQ5. That's a little bit more sporty, especially if you're going certified, because you get that extra bump in warranty, giving you over 100,000 miles, and see if they'll throw in kind of a warranty for your services, so that way it makes it a little bit less in the longevity of ownership. I don't recommend buying vehicles that have over 50,000 or 60,000 miles when it comes into luxury, because at that point it's hard to turn around the life. Meaning, if the person that was the first or second or third owner didn't do services at that point, it's almost the point of no return, especially when it comes to the transmissions or anything that's actually a major service for the vehicle. So you can have some concerns. I would recommend if you're going to buy pre-owned luxury, try to get it in a 20 to max 30,000 miles. Yeah, I want something better. So if you want something better than a Cadillac, I mean, even Volvo does an excellent job. The XC90 is doing a refresh in the interior. Surprisingly, like I tell my family about it all the time, like Volvo, I'm like, you might want to even consider that. If you have an XT5, then that's kind of a tough vehicle to go against. That's actually the problem that we're having. We have an Infiniti QX60, and to get something in the price point of these two vehicles, you have to really go into Germans. And it does lack in technology, and also the interior is also a little bit dated, which the new Buick Enclave, which is surprisingly really nice in the interior, but then they lack with the engine because they give you a turbo 4. That's I'm hoping the XT5 carries on with the same thing or making it a little bit better, because that's what traditionally happens with Cadillac. So I would say if you go in Infiniti, they're doing the VC turbocharged 4-cylinder now. So I don't recommend it right now because that's a larger vehicle than typically they use for that engine. I mean, what would you recommend? Because BMW, they don't really make a third row unless you go X7, which is going to be a lot bigger than an XT5. Alfa Romeo is really good, but if you're looking for, I mean,
The Giulia is nice.
yeah, the Giulia, it's one of those hidden gems. People don't talk about it too much unless they review them quite often. If you don't need a third row, then are you looking for a sedan or a replacement for SUV? Waiting on the comment.
Yeah.
Well, if you're looking for a sedan, I mean, okay, so you want an SUV. If you want an SUV,
You could go for a Q8.
no, he doesn't want third row.
Oh, he doesn't want
They don't want third row. So I would suggest probably a Q5 if you're looking at Audi. BMW, you could either do the new X3, but if you do the X3, like we were saying at the beginning, test drive both the xDrive 30 and the M50. The pricing is around 10, 12,000, which you may have to hold off a few months to get something. The GLE is really good. The GLB is actually an awesome vehicle too, and you can get an AMG spec for a similar price, and the performance is awesome with it. So you may want to consider the two of those. That would actually be the best option, the GLB, because performance is crazy when you go into the AMG on that, and it's kind of one of those. It's not a sleeper. You can tell it's a performance-looking vehicle, but a lot of people don't consider the GLB to be that much in performance. Does BMW come standard with safety features? They do. What happens with any safety features now with all the vehicles, whether luxury, everyday driven vehicles, or even going into exotics, you have to buy certain packages in order to unlock all of the features. So you'll get your standard features like blind spot monitoring. Most of them will have things like lane keep assist, backup collision, depending on the pricing of the vehicle. Heads-up display, in some models, it can be standard, but you still have to usually, that's going to be, no, for BMW, that's an add-on feature. So you have to add that on. It's not technology feature. I think it is the technology feature is what it's called. And it adds a couple other things as well with it. Actually, I just did the Carnival, the plug-in hybrid, and when I just did the Odyssey, I was so disappointed because the new Carnival, especially the plug-in hybrid, I mean not plug-in hybrid, sorry, especially the hybrid, you not only get great MPGs, but the interior is giving you components out of Genesis, and it looks a little bit more like an SUV. So if you're thinking to go from SUV to a minivan, the Carnival would be the way to go.
I thought you didn't like hybrids.
I mean, this is an everyday vehicle, so you're going to be driving it. Yeah. And one thing we were actually discussing, so hybrids, to do a side trek, is a lot of people don't know this, but if you do or don't, it's still good information. When you buy a hybrid, it has to be driven more than a few times. You can't let it be parked, because if you leave the vehicle parked, it's literally going to kill the battery for the hybrid system. And you can't charge it up like you would charge up a vehicle battery. So what happens is it's an expensive repair at that point. So if you are looking at any hybrid, you really want to be driving it every so many days per week. And I would probably suggest more towards the 10 to 15,000 miles a year. So that way the system keeps getting charged, because you can't use a trickle charger. And some people have put in comments, can you use a trickle charger? What happens is with that, it only charges the actual battery, not the battery for the hybrid. So that gets charged by the vehicle moving and driving. So just something to take in consideration. If you're not looking at I don't want a minivan. I got you on that. I just wanted to explain on a sidetrack. I like some of the styling on the X3. We were disappointed with the interior because they brought a lot of mini components into it, and some of the plastic for the ambient lighting, it looks like milk jugs. I don't know what they were thinking with that, because it's just going too much with the ambient lighting.
Yeah, it looks really cheap.
I like the other one. I feel like the other one is better. The screen integration is better, but they use that like it's a carpet type material. It's recycled material for the dash and the door panel. My problem with it is I like to drink coffee and I drink a lot of water. So the water is not a problem, but if I spill coffee on it, I'm cleaning it, it's going to mess up, similar to a rug.
Yeah, it'll get frizz all over it because they're using recyclable materials inside the X3.
The GLC Coupe, I think the only problem I have with Mercedes is kind of like I was talking about Cadillac. They don't give enough for the value in the sense of performance, not in the sense of quality. You typically, if you start going into some of their AMG vehicles, all of them are underperformance unless you go into like $140,000 to $160,000. The ambient lighting in the interior is one of the best. The seat quality is one of the most soft, and it's a better suspension layout than BMW, because BMW is going to be more sporty. Range Rover is going to be one of the most sport for the seating and for the suspension layout. So I think what we're planning on doing with the channel is adding more live streams, and we're also considering doing channel memberships so we can give perks, giving exclusive videos to the members before anybody in the channel. Let us know your recommendations in the comments, whatever you think we should do for more interactions. And we're planning on bringing in a lot more vehicles, and also we're going to be starting to travel. We're hoping to start the Europe travel where we can start reviewing vehicles in places like England. I went there for 2 weeks. The only issue I was having was insurance purposes. So as soon as I get this figured out, where I can get like a supplemental insurance overseas, then I'm going to start reviewing some vehicles over there. So that way you guys can see different vehicles that we don't get on this side of the area. What do you think about the Audi lineup? I personally ruined it. You have a great point, Sean. I feel that Audi has changed their line quite a bit. I'm not liking some of the direction. It's similar to, not similar in the sense of specs or anything like that, but the way they're doing the changes, like even Mini, BMW, everybody's changing to a direction that I feel they're going too much with research and not really what the buyer is wanting. So what that means is they're literally looking for any way to cut corners in craftsmanship for the interior, the technology. They're just adding too much, and it just takes away from the drive of the vehicle. What was that one? You may recall me mentioning about the 540, or I noticed it came. Yes, the 540, you can get an interior camera. Appears to be hard to shut off. What is the purpose of this? Ultimately, it's more of a safety feature for the BMW 540, the interior camera. They're actually integrating it in almost all of their BMWs now. This is if you lock the car and you leave. Say you left somebody in the vehicle, it's supposed to alert you on the app. Also, you can flip onto the app and see if you drop something where it would be noticeable. I feel, again, it's just going too much with technology. Some of the vehicles, especially when they're on the lot, they're coming fully loaded. I've noticed a lot of that with BMW. They're just really throwing out all the features, but that usually happens at the beginning with all the refresh vehicles. Another thing about the XT5, there's no power folding mirrors. Yep.
Yeah.
Do you have, with the Range Rover certified, just try to keep close to that 30,000 miles. Don't have too much more because, like I said, once you start getting over 30,000 miles on a pre-owned luxury vehicle, there's a lot that can go wrong, and service can be very expensive on those vehicles.
Especially not getting an older one. We went to a dealership to go review one, and the interior was terrible. Sticky buttons, smelled like cigarettes. It was like really bad.
Yeah, and even the glove box, they were all broken. You couldn't close it. It was like I actually gave them the keys because when we review vehicles, I try to I actually only review vehicles that I would like. So that's why I'm excited about reviewing the vehicles. And sometimes I don't review certain vehicles because I just don't think that it's worth reviewing something I personally would not drive. If you're going to buy a Range Rover, you can order them. Now, with Range Rover, it can go north or south, meaning good or bad, because some people buy them and never have a problem. Some people buy them and have some problems. But again, I feel like service is a key. If you're going to keep a vehicle for more than 6-7 years, order it by all means because you're going to enjoy it more. I personally ordered 2 of my vehicles, but both of those we've kept about 9 years.
Yeah.
So
long time.
When you go that route, you know the depreciation's there, but at least you got the value out of it. Our Audi cars, your keeper forever. Or BMWs. What do you think
about BMW?
Yeah.
Keep forever. I mean, they're reliable cars. The newer ones are a lot more reliable than the older ones. But I mean, it's really just how you like. If you want to keep it for as long as you want, then I would say keep one. I like a newer one, not really an older one.
I guess the main thing with any performance vehicle, just don't dog it, meaning race it all the time. So we have a sports car, and what I personally do is every time I fill up the tank is I race it maybe 2 or 3 times max. By doing this, it cleans out the carbon in the engine and it lets the twin turbos breathe. Because when you get vehicles that are high performance, you want to actually give it some performance, but you don't want to do it every single time. And we also, when we start the vehicle, we let it heat up. By doing this, you're also giving the vehicle a chance to breathe. Because if you just start up a performance vehicle and you start, racing it, it's almost like you're waking up from sleep and then you're just going for a marathon. It's going to do the same thing to the vehicle. I've been a car guy for years. Oh, yeah. We used to own Cadillac and we own Lincoln. That was actually my first and second vehicle. Well, my second and third vehicle in a Jeep Grand Cherokee. The Jeep Grand Cherokee had a lot of problems. It was a 90s model. Lincoln and Cadillac. Lincoln, I didn't have any issues. The Cadillac, we had a lot of engine leaks. I actually replaced like 17 seals out of the 23 seals. So that's why we don't typically buy those vehicles anymore. Run flat tires I had on the Cadillac, and I hit a lot of areas where we popped the tire more or less, and they worked awesome. I was able to drive like 50 to 100 miles with no air in the tire, and it didn't bend the rim at all. But again, that's more for like sports cars. If you have an everyday vehicle, I would recommend having a spare tire, or if they don't have one with it, tell the dealership that you want one and they'll make a deal for it. So almost every vehicle now is coming standard with the run flat tires. That's kind of a new thing that they're doing. They're also a lot more money than regular tires, and they're more for sport riding as well. So in some categories, it's a plus, and some it's negative. The longevity, it can be good if you're getting just like a basic tire for it, but it depends on the brands. Like Continental is one of my favorite when it comes to performance tires for SUVs, or Pirelli's is my go-to for my sports car. Personally, I tried the Michelin Cups, and we almost slid off the road. You were actually in the vehicle.
Yeah.
We were doing some hard corners because with a sports car, I also like to play with it. So we do some hard maneuvers. And with these Michelin Cups, Usually I take the corner at like near 60 miles an hour, if not more. I took it at 40 and I literally slid 4 lanes. Luckily, I was able to catch it, but I felt that, and again, it's only certain model vehicles too, because in BMW, I feel like the Michelins are pretty good. But if you start going into exotic line, Pirelli seems to hold it a little bit better. The RSQ8 isn't.
It's a great car.
Yeah, it's a good car.
SUV.
I mean, I would probably get that over the Lamborghini Urus.
Yeah, definitely. Interior is like way higher quality.
Yeah,
and they share the same engine.
So in the pricing on it, you're not going to be spending what you spend on the Lamborghini. You can actually, like I was saying at the beginning, get Audi Care, and that would cover a Lamborghini detuned engine for a fraction of the price. We like the Urus. I just feel like because they have the RSQ8, they really hurt that segment because it's almost like the R8, right? The R8 is such a sweet deal. Why would you go Lamborghini? Is Porsche warranty good? Porsche actually is really good with service and warranty. We have some family members that own them, and they literally will pick the vehicle up on a flatbed and take it to the dealership, similar to like Lamborghini, which is awesome. So even though it's a lot more money than Audi because they continuously increase the price, like the new 911, I got word they're increasing it like obviously not just the base model. It's going to be like a GT2 or GT3 with near $50,000. But the service itself, I mean, literally, they come with a flatbed to pick up your vehicle. Do you recommend Cayenne S? The Cayenne S is nice. The only problem with Cayennes is if you, and this happens with a lot of vehicles once you start getting into the $100,000+ price point. When you're not base, but you're kind of mid-trim, these are everyday vehicles that they keep on the lot. So the depreciation is going to be a little bit more so than something like a GTS. So if you could score a GTS pre-owned, some of them you can get like a 23 model. I actually was looking the other day for, I think, $115, which is crazy because that vehicle is a lot more money. And the turbo, I mean, awesome vehicles when you go Cayenne turbo. Those don't depreciate as much in the sense of a Cayenne S or a base Cayenne, and you're not going to see as many on the road. So you'll be a little bit more happy. The e-hybrid, I would be cautious about only because of that battery. I have a neighbor, he just got rid of his before his battery went bad, and they said the replacement was around $25,000. Well, our battery is actually dying. That kind of sucks. Yeah. So we're going to be doing this every Saturday at 11 o'clock. Sorry, we were about 10 minutes late. I was trying to, because it's the first time we did a live stream, it gave us a little bit of hiccups. But like we were saying, we're going to be doing live streams, questions and answers like we've been doing through this whole live stream. We're also going to be doing channel memberships, so that way we can give more exclusive videos and different content to viewers. So we appreciate all the support and help that everybody has done. And I hope you guys enjoyed the review today. And we look forward to seeing you on the next review and the next live stream. Thank you guys for supporting us. And we will see you guys next Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You have to.